this collective, and within within that collective, they have come up with some strategies in order to support organizations through this pandemic. Some of those strategies are things like no evictions while the pandemic or while the lockdown is going on. Not that they have a choice, because nobody can move during this period. They've also come up with things like rental discounts, and even in some cases given complete rental reprieves where the situation is so dire that a mom and pop store, for example, cannot pay the rent at all because they're forced to shut down and they cannot operate because they're not within the critical services of things like medical supply, food, and so on. So some of the big corporates have now given these stores opportunity to continue by giving them these rental reprieves and discounts and not evicting them. Obviously, this is all dependent on the severity of the impact of COVID-19 on their business, and especially the lockdown. Another thing that has happened, they've given interest-free rental deferments. So what they've done is they've said, okay, so you can't pay your rent now. We'll defer your rent for a month or 2 or 3 or 5, depending on how long this lockdown will continue. And we won't charge you interest on that rental deferment. Other organizations like Rebosa, for example, the real estate business owners of South Africa, they are pushing the National Command Council, and they've sent an open letter and several other letters and communications. And the real estate sector as a whole has come together and said that they would hope that government would open the sector so that real estate agents can get back to work. So what they are effectively, one of the things, for example, that they're saying is that what is the use of having an interest rate cut of now 2% down to 7.75% when you can't use that interest rate cut because you cannot buy property, because you can't go out to view a property, your real estate agent can't work, etc., etc. So Rebosa are pushing the NCC, the National Command Council, to open up the real estate sector even now while we are in level 4. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet. As far as I understand it, real estate agents will only be able to go back to work in level 3. But hopefully, the National Command Council will listen to Rebosa and the sector as a whole, and hopefully we'll be able to open up shortly. Government, obviously, as most of us know, has come on board by giving funding through the UIF, the SME Growth and Resilience Fund, the SME Debt Relief Fund. There's private institutions that have come on board, Sukuba Fund, the Solidarity Fund has come into play. The IDC has come on board with their Working Capital Support Fund, the National Empowerment Fund, they have a support fund, and then a whole host of others. Even SARS, the South African Receiver of Revenue, has come on board to support SMEs in their time of need. In fact, if you go to our website, www.edpfpropertyacademy.com, there's a COVID-19 link where you can get a 12-page document that outlines all the research we've done in terms of all of the different support and relief funds that are available in all sectors, not just the property sector. If you add all of the support that government and non-government parastatals and so on have come to the party with, you're talking about close to R1 trillion, in fact, probably more than R1 trillion worth of support that has been put together to support mainly SMEs, but also medium to large businesses. The banks themselves have come on board with bond relief opportunities, and even people, private landlords, have come on board by giving people support through rental reprieves, rental deferments, reductions in rent. There have been some very innovative things around, some landlords have said, okay, if you can't pay your rent, at least keep my property neat and tidy, fix up the windows that are broken, fix the plumbing, replace doors, etc., in order to then compensate the landlord for the loss of income. So there's a whole range of things that have happened and the property sector's reaction towards the lockdown and COVID-19 as a whole has been quite comprehensive, and you'll be able to follow a lot of that in the media to see what is going on. So really now the focus goes to what will happen after the lockdown. And there have been several predictions. Some people have predicted a massive boom. Others have predicted a massive bust. And really, depending on where you sit, which side of the fence you sit on, you will believe anything that people spew out there. And they're all looking into their wonderful crystal balls, predicting what's going to happen in the future. I personally don't have a crystal ball, so I cannot say decisively what's going to happen. But what I can do is to look at the property sector as a whole and look at the history of property and then say, all right, so if I want to get involved in the property sector, how can I do so going into the future? So there have been some reports that have come out. For example, MoneyWeb, I read a report on MoneyWeb the other day that the first quarter year-on-year drop in sales has been 40%. I predict, or at least I think, that in April there have probably been zero sales because nobody could go outside. And if there were any sales, then I'd be wondering how that sale happened. Look, there could possibly have been online sales, but because the deeds offices are closed or were closed until level 4, chances are that the transfers couldn't go through anyway. So in April, probably you had a 0% of sales in the property sector. But that obviously does not bode well for the property sector. A 40% drop in the first quarter, and the second quarter will most likely follow suit. We'll probably also have a 40, maybe even a 50% drop in the sales within the property sector from May through June as well. So the number is going to get worse, unfortunately, for the next 2 or 3 months. However, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Even after the Great Depression, people all came together, the world's governments put huge amount of effort, corporates, everybody put a huge amount of effort, and we came out on the other side in a good state. Even after the crash of 2008, things have started to become a lot better. Yes, okay, so it's only been 4 years, it's been 12 years now, It's been 12 years, a lot has happened, and now all of a sudden we're back in that state again. So there will be some bad news for the next couple of months still, but there's an old adage in the property sector that says, when the best time was to buy was 10 years ago. When the second best time to buy is right now. And for me personally, I would think that if you are in the property game, you're not in it for a quick fix or a quick turnaround or a quick profit. The property game is a long-term strategy. So if you want to invest in the property game, you always need to look at it as that, a long-term strategy, and not think that the next 3 months is going to be the be-all and end-all of your property journey. If you're going to invest, now is always the best time. Going forward is where your growth will come. So yes, we have a problem right now, but it also gives you room for opportunity. Wherever there's a challenge, there's always opportunity. And I, for one, personally, am quite keenly looking at the property sector right now to say, where are the opportunities for me to invest? So let's quickly jump back to the transformation discussion. So before COVID, the transformation discussion was not a very good one. The Section 27 discussion of the Constitution made it even worse. But whenever the discussion on Section 27 came up, I always used to ask people this question. So even if government should take back all the land, which is impossible, that will never happen. But let's say government does take back all the land, and they redistribute the land to everybody with the 60 million people that are in the land. So what? You've now got a piece of land. What are you going to do with it? So I then look at it and I say, all right, so you've got this piece of land. Instead of just building a house for yourself, use that piece of land as a vehicle to become economically active. So then the question comes in to say, okay, so now you've got this piece of land, you want to now become economically active. But Nigel, there are these massive barriers to entry. For me, there are 5 barriers to entry that are most important. I'm not saying these are the only ones, but there are many others as well, but these are the 5 most important ones. Capital. Most people who come from disadvantaged backgrounds do not have the capital base, and number 2, the income to support the purchase of a piece of land or a building or a property. The historical disadvantages, number 2, where we come from, creates a barrier as well. The wealth gap between the rich and the poor creates a massive barrier. The corporate sector as a whole, in fact, also is a massive barrier to smaller businesses getting involved in the sector. And then, in fact, the codes themselves, the BE codes, in fact, is also, in certain aspects, a barrier to entry. What do I mean by this? The codes, they say, are supposed to be the thing that supports Black entrepreneurs to get involved in the property sector. So why do I say that the codes themselves are actually also a barrier? So there's an area or a sector, part of the codes, the sector codes, that says procurement is the purchase of goods and services, or any purchase of goods and services, including that of a capital nature. Now, if you are going to buy property while you're running a business and you want to use your procurement as part of your BEE strategy, and you cannot buy property from other Black empowerment organizations, you are going to lose a massive amount of points in your procurement spend, because property is expensive and it is always a lot higher than the money you spend in your normal procurement day-to-day stuff that you buy. So that clause in the property sector codes actually creates a massive barrier for those who want to get involved in the property sector. What's worse is that people who have a low BEE score actually benefit to sell to a BEE entity, because they get 3 bonus points when they sell property to a Black organization or entity that is BEE, SME, and so on and so forth. So the codes themselves, as I said, then becomes a barrier to entry in certain aspects. I'm not saying in all aspects. There are a number of areas where it does benefit BEE institutions or organizations or Black businesses, but there are certain aspects of the codes that actually create a barrier to entry. So we need to overcome these barriers to entry in order to help us to support Black entrepreneurs who want to get involved in the property sector. So I've tried to cover a whole host of things in a very, very short space of time. Number one, prior to COVID, there was already a major issue with regard to transformation. And like I said, it was actually getting worse. We had got from level 4 to level 5. Number two, when COVID came along, it shifted everybody's focus from empowerment or transformation to supporting SMEs and the like in order to just stay afloat. But COVID has obviously now created a massive problem where SMEs are suffering. And in fact, when we come out on the other side, we will probably go from a level 5 across the board down to a level 6, maybe even a level 7. So we need to implement strategies in order to support Black entrepreneurs who want to get involved in the sector. Post-COVID, we need to come up with a huge amount of different strategies. Now, there are a bunch of organizations like, for example, CYBER, the SA Institute for Black Property Practitioners, of which I am a part, and we are party to the enterprise development scope. to support Black entrepreneurs. Cyber have come up with 11 different ways in which government and organizations that are parastatals and so on, and other organizations, and especially the property sector, the private sector, can support Black entrepreneurs post-COVID in order to become involved in the property sector. So you can do some research on that. We unfortunately don't have time. There's a huge amount of data there and things that Cyber have recommended. And in fact, what I'll do, I'll give this document to Sechaba. He can distribute it to everybody that was on this call, so that you can also see what is Cyber talking to government about in terms of how to transform the sector post-COVID. However, we at EDPF, or maybe not however, but in conjunction with Cyber, the EDPF has already been for the last 4 years focused on supporting Black entrepreneurs. We train them, we develop them, we give them opportunities, both public sector as well as private sector, and then we teach them how to raise capital. Obviously, there isn't an endless amount of money in our pockets. We can support them as much as we can, but there are ways to raise capital outside of the normal institutions that only focus on people that specifically have the capital, which is one of the biggest barriers to entry. But there are other ways in which to raise capital. So we support those individuals, those institutions, those organizations who wish to enter the sector by teaching them how to raise capital. In fact, there are 15 ways, in fact, more than 15 ways, but 15 ways that we speak about that my friend Anton at Empire Wealth, he wrote a book on this, the very topic, on how to raise capital for your business if you want to build a property portfolio and you don't have your own money, so you can build a business in the property sector using other people's money. So I've spoken about a whole range of things. And I think, Sechaba, there is now a time for some questions and answers. I'm hoping that I'll be able to answer all the questions that you have. If I don't have the answer immediately, I will go and research and answer the question, and I will come back to you and I'll give the answer to Sechaba after the fact. I'm not one of those that will just guess the answer. I will tell you that I don't know the answer, and then I will give you the answer after the fact. But you can also contact me if you wish to do so. My email address is nigel@edpf.co.za. It's quite easy to remember, nigel@edpf.co.za. You can also connect to us either via our website, edpf.co.za, or our academy, which is edpfpropertyacademy.com. That's it from my side. Sechaba, thank you very much again for the opportunity, and I look forward to answering whatever questions your people have.
Thank you very much, Nigel. There are already a couple of questions, but depending on your answers, also more questions will come through. To just improve the audio, there's a request if you can try to not speak using your headpiece, but just speak directly. Let's just see how that is going to work. If you remove your headpiece.
Let's try that. I might just have to get a little bit closer to my laptop there.
Just say something before we ask you the first question.
Okay, so Sechaba, is that better for you?
Man, that's better. Hi, Nigel.
Okay.
The question really is around the big statement that you made that there is 6 trillion in this sector. I didn't get a sense of what impact or what percentage of it is owned by previously disadvantaged. And I know you spoke broadly about that it was level 4 at best, and then it's going to go down. Can you just shed some light on the stats?
Okay, so depending on who you talk to, the stats are quite varied, and they will go anywhere from 7% up to possibly even 50%. Again, depending on who you talk to. There is very little research that has gone into really understanding what the spread is. There are a number of documents that are out there in terms of research that has been done, but there has not been a really comprehensive, there isn't a comprehensive understanding of the ownership patterns throughout the country. However, one of the statements that has been made is that because of the residential sector being so vast, and from a numbers perspective, approximately 40% of the residential sector is owned by Black individuals and companies. The number really does range, like I said, between 7% and 40%. Whereas on the commercial sector, the number is much smaller, because mostly the commercial sector, retails and commercial office block, industrials and so on, are owned mainly by corporates. So you can imagine then that the commercial office and retail sector is a much smaller number. The real estate market, from a residential perspective, in terms of ownership of real estate companies, that number is even worse. As I said, that's a level 8 at the moment. And the reason is that 75% of, and this is what the research shows, 75% of real estate companies are still owned by white individuals and or companies, and only 25% are now in the hands of Black individuals and companies. The same goes for real estate agents. The number goes as low as 10% of people of color that are real estate agents. There is an effort by the Estate Agencies Affairs Board to bring more real estate agents in. They ran a program called the 1,000 Learner Program to bring 1,000 new people and 1,000 new real estate agents into the sector. That unfortunately was not a massively successful program, and a very small percentage of the 1,000 people finally finished the course, which was 12 months. It was only, I think, about 135 people. And there is an even smaller number that's still in the sector. So from a real estate agency perspective, all the way through to the ownership side, from a residential, commercial office, retail, and so on, the numbers are very, very small. And like I said, there hasn't really been a comprehensive study to give you really accurate numbers. But as I said, depending on who you talk to, anywhere between 7 and 40%. I believe it's closer to the 12 to 15% mark.
Thank you, Nigel. Are you able to open the chat box and see the questions directly on your side?
Okay, let me try that. There we go. Yes.
If you can try with Trifina's question, and then you can take them as you go.
Okay, cool. All right, so Trifina, the quantity surveying company. That one?
Please take the questions so that people that are listening on other channels can hear what the question is.
Can also see. Okay, all right, can also hear. Okay, cool. All right, so Trifina, she's a quantity surveyor. I assume, Trifina, you're a lady. Your website, you're looking for, okay, so Trifina was just saying that she's looking forward to the session, as she is in property herself.
Yeah, maybe let's start with the question where she says, thanks, Nigel. How does one get involved as one of your cohort? One of the things that I need as a business owner.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right, so one of the things that I need as a business owner is access to market, more than funding, because projects sustain the business. Does your organization offer such assistance to your cohorts, and what's the process of applying? And is it currently ongoing online during COVID? Okay, so that's quite a mouthful. So let's tackle them one at a time. Number one, in terms of our program, we run like a university. We're an academy and we run like a university, where we run January through December. So we don't take people on during the year. The applications are always open. They close in September for the following year, okay? And then in October, they open again for the year after. So When they close in September, we then assess in October, and by November, we let those successful candidates know that they can start in January the following year. All right. The process is simple. They go to one of our websites and they fill in the online application form, of which part of the requirement is to upload your ID and your proof of residence. So you have to have your ID and proof of residence ready that you can upload. Then you fill in the application form. It's a 2-page application form, which asks for very basic information, just so that we can vet who you are, that you're a real person, etc., etc. Then once we have accepted that application, we then send you the assessment tool, which is also online. You do the assessment, and if you reach a 75% positive result in the assessment, we then do a one-on-one interview with you. And if then we feel that you are the right type of candidate for the program, we then accept you into the program. As of next year, the program will be 1,000 Rand a month, so 12,000 Rand for the year, 36,000 Rand for the 3 years in total. And that's really to defray costs. It's not actually the cost of the training, because the trainers are sponsored. It's to defray the hard costs of running the academy. So that's the organization, what we do, how we do it, and so on. In terms of what we teach, there are 14 disciplines, including things like facilities management, property management, asset management, energy efficiency, water management, occupational health and safety, and a whole host of other things. There are some certificates that you will get. There's a venture creation certificate, for example. There's an energy certificate and a whole host of others. But for me, the most important certificate that you get after the 36 months, the 3 years, is your first title deed if you don't have one already. If you do not walk away with at least one title deed, then we as educators have failed you. That's my motto. We do not want to walk away just with certificates. We want you to walk away with your first property. So in order to achieve that, we help you source deals. We don't source the deals for you. We teach you how to source the deals. We don't lend you money. We teach you how to raise capital. So the deals that we help you get to are both public sector as well as private sector deals. So we work with public works, for example, where government land is made available to support Black entrepreneurs who want to get involved in the sector. There are private sector deals that we bring to the table, and we encourage you and teach you how to go looking for deals. We always say, and there's another saying in the property sector that goes, good deals, you don't go and find good deals. You go out and you make good deals. So what that means is that you take a deal that may not be a great deal, but in order to make it a good deal, you negotiate with the seller for a better price. You take the property and you convert it into something that is more financially viable and gives you a better yield. So those are the kinds of things that we teach. And I think that answers all of the questions, right? Let's go to level.
Yeah. Let's not forget that the context is really around COVID-19, which has really
there is one question, yes, correct.
Changed
in terms of COVID-19, that's actually what happened was before COVID-19, we were planning to create an online academy to support the physical classes that we run. So we teach 3 days a month, where our guys come, they get breakfast, lunch, and snacks throughout the day. And that's all part of the 1,000 Rand that the guys pay. We then teach them over the 3 days certain aspects, so legal aspects, financial aspects, how to invest in property, how to find right deals, and so on. And we go through all of those things over the 3 years. During COVID, what has then happened was because we could not have that face-to-face, we then had to go online immediately. So we were busy building our online academy. And within the first 2 weeks of us being under lockdown, we then took our entire academy online. So there's videos of our lecturers speaking, all the course material is there, our assessments are being done online. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. Everything we do now can be done online as well. But we prefer face stuff, obviously. So as the minute lockdown is over, we go back to the classroom teaching, but still give the guys access to our online academy.
Okay. I like the next question by Lebogang, if you can read it and take that one.
Okay. So the next question, where would you say are the opportunities for property investment that are not brick and mortar? JSE listed companies and the like. Okay. So there's a bunch of ways that you can invest in the property sector. The JSE is one of them. But if you've been looking and watching the JSE and all the different companies in the property sector and across all sectors, you would have found that share prices have been doing this. They've been going down, 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 down. I've been watching Sasol as an example. Sasol in the beginning of the year, February, around about February, even before the lockdown, or just before the lockdown, lost 95% of their share value. And at that time, I thought, I need to put some money into Sasol because that is a strong company and they are going to rebound after the lockdown is over. And in fact, even during the lockdown, they already gained back 10% of their losses that they made prior to the lockdown. So the JSE is one place to put your money. Most of the property companies have lost a lot of money over this period of time. And they have lost because of that. They are most of them are not paying out dividends. So the opportunity, in fact, is now. I would personally, and I'm not a financial advisor, so if what I'm saying now is just my personal opinion, and I have to give a caveat there to say this is not financial advice, because I'm not allowed to give financial advice. However, my opinion, and I personally would say, look at the better property companies that are in the real estate sector within the JSE, and look at what their performance has been in the past, and then invest in those companies that you believe are solid companies that have lost a bit of ground because of the lockdown. So they've lost some ground now, but guaranteed, when the lockdown is over, people start paying rent again, the economy starts to recover, and those companies will then, their share prices will increase. So not only will you get your dividends, you'll also get capital growth within your investment. So that's the real estate market within the JSE. But then there's a whole host of other things that you can do. There are collective investment schemes. There are stokvels that you can invest. In fact, if you go to our website, you will find that we've created a stokvel ourselves. And there are many other stokvels that you can invest in. There are, like I said, collective investment schemes. There are, you can go to the likes of Old Mutual and Sanlam and invest into their property opportunities. There are many, many, many different ways that you can invest in the property sector without having to invest directly into a, like you say, brick and mortar company where you're building houses yourself. So buying the house or buying the building, you don't have to. There are other opportunities.
And can we take the one from Lindile?
Okay, so Lindile says, which institutions support development in land managed by traditional councils, as this has great scope for driving transformation? Not applicable to Western Cape, but maybe KwaZulu-Natal. Fantastic question. And you're asking somebody that's actually involved directly in the space. So I'm involved on over and above the fact that I'm involved and run the Enterprise Development Property Fund. I'm also involved in an organization called the United Royal Kingships, who are involved then directly with the National House of Traditional Leaders. And collectively, what they are trying to do is exactly what you are asking for here. Supporting the development of rural communities, land that is owned by traditional councils and so on. So we are working directly with traditional councils, the 836 traditional councils that are out there, in order to support them to utilize the vast tracts of land that they have to build different opportunities. So the question that you have is there support, institutional support? And yes, there is. So, for example, the PIC, Public Investment Corporation, they have a policy now where they will invest into rural communities on greenfields projects. Greenfields projects being where you've got a parcel of land and you want to build something new. So the PIC are definitely keen on investing there. The Development Bank of South Africa are definitely keen, especially if it's things like social housing and potentially student accommodation for over 100 million rand, I think is their minimum required. And the National Empowerment Fund are quite keen. Business partners are very, very keen. I've been having lots of discussions with business partners recently to invest into these types of developments. Obviously, government themselves, through the social housing funding that they have available, you've got FLIS and a whole host of others. So there are a ton of institutions that are supporting the development of rural communities, and especially if the traditional councils are involved. Now, obviously, there are a lot of caveats where each of these institutions are concerned, and you have to familiarize yourself with what it is they are doing, what the criteria is, and you can't just go there and say, listen, I want 100 million for the development. First, familiarize yourself with what they do, who they support, what type of institutions, what type of businesses they support. And then when you go to them, make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. You don't want to go to them half-hearted in the hope that they will help you through the process. Understand what they want. Put your package together based on what they require from you, and then go and ask them for the money.
Okay, thank you, Nigel. In the interest of time, or if you can keep the answers quite quick and short, and also if you can take the next three questions all together. So if you can, you'll read those ones from Nozuko, Dumisani, and Trifina. But before you go there, a quick, simple answer from our online question that comes from Batu Property Pty Ltd. Says, good evening. So your course basically targets prospective property investors. It's a simple one-liner. If you can just respond to that.
And the answer is yes.
Okay, so to Batu Property Ltd, yes, the course targets prospective property investors. Can you take all those three questions from Nozuko, Dumisani, and Trifina all at once?
Okay. All right, so so let's read them quickly. The challenge we are facing as SMEs is the high price of rental in our small towns. It's difficult to rent a property in town to do business. Is the way that the sector can intervene? Okay. Next one. Hi, Nigel. In all likelihood, it will take a while for the rental economy to recover, and after the survival, a lot of business models will change. Does it make sense to continue with new retail developments? The third one, I'm also a property developer as well as a QS, quantity surveyor. And I do experience the challenge of equity when looking at big developments. Does EDPF assist with equity and bridging finance? Okay, so the answer to that last question is no. We don't assist with financing. We teach you how to raise capital. So when you're in our program, only then will we teach you how to raise capital for whatever it is you want to do, whether it be doing a development or investment or raising capital for your business. We can teach you how to do that when you're in the program. But no, we do not lend money. We are not a lender. Okay. let's tackle the rest of the questions together. All right, so yes, in COVID-19, what has happened? A lot of small businesses cannot afford their rent. And if you go to our Academy website, you'll go to click on the COVID-19 tab. Like I said, there's a 12-page document there. You will find all of the support that is available to any business in that document. I'm sure I can't see any. We've done a lot of research, and I don't think there's anything else out there that we did not put in that document. So you can go and look at that document, and it will give you an understanding of where you as an SME can go to get support. There's debt relief, there's rental relief, there is SARS funding, there's UIF money, and a whole host of others, as I had mentioned before in my presentation. It's a pity that we couldn't get the presentation up to Chava because, like I said, the visual actually shows you all of that. But be it as it may, if you go to my website, you will see that document, and that will guide you through the process of where you can go and get support. There is support for almost everybody out there. If you run a business, there will be support. If you have lost your job, there will be support. The support may not be at the level that you are used to. So if you have an income of 10,000 Rand a month, for example, and you've lost your job, the UIF I think will only go up to 3,500 Rand. But it's so that you can survive and cope through this period of time. So yes, there is support. Go to that document and you'll be able to find something that will give you the help that you need. Let me tackle that second part, or the second question. In all likelihood, the retail economy, it will take a while for the retail economy to recover. And after the survival, a lot of business models will change. 100%. Business models have to change. You cannot run your business post-COVID like you were pre-COVID. So the retail, especially, for example, in the retail sector where you are running, for example, sorry, I'm just losing it a little bit here. If you have a restaurant, for example, post-COVID, most likely what will happen is that with social distancing, you will not be able to go to 100% capacity. At very best, you can go anywhere between 25 and 50% capacity. So yes, your business model will have to change. But unfortunately, there isn't a one solution, or one solution that will fit all problems. You will have to, as a business person, become really innovative in order to survive during COVID and post-COVID, because things are definitely going to change. Business models have to change. You have to rely on technology. You have to rely on deliveries, in order to keep your business going. So if you're a restaurant, for example, you need to start looking more at your delivery model versus your in-house sort of seating. Because, like I said, you will not be able to do more than 25 or 50% of your capacity. And if you are in the retail, in that business, where you run a restaurant, then you know that 80% is what you require in terms of running a successful restaurant. So if you can't have 80% capacity, then you're going to run into trouble. So your business model has to change. Okay, so to talk about the retail developments, 6 years ago, I was asked a question by the CEO of the Property Sector Charter Council when I was still in the corporate sector building shopping centers. We were busy building one of the biggest shopping centers that's in the country today. And she asked me this question: where do you see retail going? And I said, retail's already dead. That was 6 years ago. In fact, now it's 7 years ago that she asked me that question. 7 years ago, I already said retail's dead. Now, post-COVID, retail will be even more dead. However, there is still opportunity in the rural communities. And hence the reason why we are still quite focused on developing small retail centers, not large centers, not regional malls, looking at smaller retail centers that will service the need of that traditional council and the community they service. Smaller units, not these big massive, which are, I believe, now going to become white elephants. And that's just my personal opinion. I believe that big retail stores are going to become distribution centers because of the onset of the fourth industrial revolution. That even before COVID, even before lockdown, even before social distancing, the fourth industrial revolution was already influencing the way retail centers operate. And it's going to be even more so after the fact. I hope that answers all of those questions, Sichana.
Yes, it does, because now we are left with very few minutes. Can I just zoom out and say, convince me that one should really come into the retail sector and actually make some money, let's say. But in the main, we say the sector is not transformed. It is about 6 trillion. I'm not convinced that a Black, previously disadvantaged individual moving into such a sector, given the complexities that we have outlined, is the place to go. If you can just maybe address that as you close.
Yeah, okay.
Where is the real opportunity given the complexities in this sector?
100%. I agree with you fully there, Sechava. It is an enormously complex industry to be involved in. I personally have been involved in the sector for 20 years, and I believe that I only know about 20% of all the knowledge that is out there. So for somebody to know everything, it would take 100 years to learn everything there is to know, and then you probably still won't know most of what's out there. There's an old adage that says you don't know what you don't know until you have learned what you don't know. So there's a lot that I don't know. And even when I teach, there's a lot that people still teach me. What I do know is that right now, the opportunity isn't in retail developments for a new developer coming in. I believe the opportunity is in residential. And even if you look at the graph in terms of what the percentage is from a residential perspective against all of the other sectors within the property sector, it makes up 3.8 trillion rand of the 5.8 trillion rand. So more than half of the money is in residential. So it makes sense, not only from an experience perspective, but also from a numbers perspective, that residential is the place to be if you are a new investor or a new developer. My recommendation to my candidates is always this: start small. If you're going to start, you're going to be a new investor, start small, buy one apartment. It is reasonably easy to buy one apartment because if you have the affordability, you can then get a normal bond from a bank. You could potentially, if you earn 22,000 Rand and below, get a FLIS subsidy from the government, as an example, and buy that first apartment or house for under 750,000 if you're under FLIS. But if you're not under FLIS, you could go much higher than that. The gap in the market's between 400,000 and 1.8 million. That's where the real gap is in the residential market for a new entrant. So if you want to be a new entrant in the market, whether it be during lockdown or after lockdown, that's where I would recommend you invest, in that 400,000 to 1.8 million gap. Once you've done your first deal, you then do your second deal. Bring some partners on board if you must, if you don't have the money yourself, and if the banks won't lend money to you. Bring some, like I said, there are 15 ways to raise capital and maybe even more. You then bring other partners on if you don't have the money yourself. Buy the second unit. By the time you get to the third unit, the banks will look at you as an investor from a corporate perspective, and banks like ABSA, for example, have a special vehicle that once you bought 2 properties, they will then allow you to use the future rental income as your affordability in order to then get a third bond, to get a third property. And that's how
we have run out of time. We have run out of time, and we were speaking to Mr. Nigel Adriaanse, the CEO of the Enterprise Development Property Fund, EDPF, which is an impact fund whose aim is to transform the almost 6 trillion property sector. For more engagements with these platforms, please contact our WhatsApp number 082-088-5262 or visit the EmpowerWorks website, where you'll get all the information about all the coming events. I would like to thank everybody that was listening to us live on different digital platforms as we continue the conversations of Empower Entrepreneurs, a COVID-19 discussion hosted by EmpowerWorks. Until tomorrow, bye-bye, and thank you everyone for your participation.
Thank you, Sejaba.